Welcome to book number 1 review of 2020. My name is Zach Moore and this is More Book Reviews. So, the first book that I chose to do for 2020 is called The Holocaust, A New History by Laurence Rees. Seems like a strange book to start the year off, but I decided to do that because it was something that I'd always been interested in. Growing up as a kid, my mom would take us to like Washington D.C. and took us to like the Holocaust Museum, and at the time definitely felt like it was depressing, felt like it was sad. There was kind of no reason to learn about it. And while growing up as an adult, learning more about it, I really wanted to kind of learn more of the history of how could something like that happen in the more quote-unquote modern world in the 20th century. How could something like that happen? So this book really dives into that and goes into how can humanity become so dark against humanity. So in this video I'm going to break down my review of it, the pros and cons of it, and honestly whether I think that you should add it to your personal library or not. So this is written by Laurence Rees, and who he is, you might not know who he is, but he is one of the world's foremost experts on all things the Holocaust. He wrote a book about Auschwitz, and it won a lot of awards. He also did a documentary about Nazis, and really that actually also won a lot of awards as well. You can definitely look all that up. It's online to look at. It's very interesting stuff. And so he is, like I mentioned, an expert, and he wrote a book about the Holocaust in general. We tend to look at it as overall, how did all this happen? It didn't just happen in a week. It wasn't just one decision. It actually happened over quite a lot of years. Some would say probably around 20 years or so, 20 or 30 years of decisions. Small decisions, big decisions that were made that ended up taking 6 million lives. So what the book really goes into is it includes about 25 years worth of personal testimonies from victims' families, from the survivors, as well as from the perpetrators. A lot of the SS guards that really did what Hitler told them to do and took part in this. And so what he does is he interviews them and he really just asks, where did this come from? What did you do? What did you experience? And that's really what fills the pages. And so the biggest thing it looks to answer is really how did it happen? And what it starts off with is actually it starts off in 1919. He looks at Hitler as a young artist from Austria that had just fought in World War I, and he was bitter. He blamed the Jews for Germany's downfall, of losing the war. And one of his things that he saw that the Jew was a racial tuberculosis, his quotes, of the nation, to the nation, specifically to Germany. And he added that the final aim to any German government had to be, and this is again quoting Hitler, the uncompromising removal of the Jews altogether. He wanted a victory, for Germany. And unfortunately by victory what he meant, and this is again quoting him again, was the extermination of the Jewish people. And what he said was, and this was taken from Joseph Goebbels, who was like one of his closest associates. He said, we must gain the victory no matter whether we do right or wrong. Hitler truly didn't care who was dying. He saw that what mattered was the German people. He calls it the Volk, the pure German blood had to win. And he didn't care if it was right or wrong. So what Laurence Rees does is he traces the obvious and not so obvious beginnings of how the Holocaust happened. So really it tracks it down from Hitler being an angry, bitter German artist to really becoming known as the most evil, murderous dictators of all time. So that's really kind of the basics. It goes from about 1919 to 1945, 1946, and it traces every decision that Hitler made, every decision that his associates made, the people under him, and it really traces that from 1919 to about 1945. It says, how could something like the Holocaust happen? And it did not happen overnight. It was not Hitler saying, okay, go and exterminate all of them in one night. It was small decisions such as, this, people that know history well know that the Jews were ordered to wear Stars of David so that people knew, that they were Jews. And that was just that's one part of how the Holocaust came to happen. And the book explains in detail, in personal testimonies, how it actually happened. So my prose of all of this is the eyewitness testimonies coupled with the actual documents, the war documents, the letters, Hitler's letters, his associates' letters as well, to each other, and having all that with eyewitness testimony to show that it's not just eyewitness testimony by itself, but also coupled with the actual documents to prove their case. And also, the second pro on this one is you learn. And that to me is huge about everything that reading is all about. And you learn so much. It teaches you about humanity, it teaches you about the war, it teaches you so many things that you can truly use in your daily life, honestly. And what things can you learn from a horrific event such as that? And honestly, my opinion is if you don't learn from what you're reading, it's a waste of a book. Some people might not like that, but I truly believe that if a book doesn't teach you something, if you don't come away changed from that book, then it's honestly just wasted pages and wasted reading, in my opinion. And the third pro is it's uncomfortable to read. Now, people might not see that as a pro, but it is. You have to get uncomfortable in order to change. You have to get uncomfortable in order to see how horrible something truly is. Some of these quotes, these eyewitness testimonies, are horrible. I had to reread them 5 or 6 times to truly get like, okay, is this really what they're saying? Did they truly mean this happened? So I would not recommend it for kids. It's not nighttime reading for kids. Do not read it to your kids. He doesn't waver, the author does not waver in explaining the horrific things that people went through. So that is definitely my pros, my quick list of pros. My con, it's a really dumb con in my opinion, but it's a long book. My normal reading book's probably 200, 250 pages. This was about 432 pages with an extra 100 pages of citations and sources at the end. It was really good, but it took me about 10 or 11 days to read about 30 or 40 pages a day. So that would be honestly my only con. And if you love big books and you cannot lie, then I truly think that you will love this book. And it's a book that I had to take in pieces because of how emotionally draining it can be just listening to those stories. So that's definitely something you have to take into account as well, depending on what kind of reader you are. So that's my only con. So my recommendation, honestly, is you go to Barnes & Noble, you go to your local bookstore, or honestly just go to Amazon. It's like 20 bucks and go get it. So thank you for joining me on my first book review, and I look forward to the ones to come, and I will continue posting it. And as always, if you see this video, definitely subscribe on YouTube. My goal again is to post about once a week or so. It's been for the bigger books, once week and a half. But yeah, that's all that I got for you. Again, hope you're having a good week, and keep reading.